It's certainly a significant plan, but it's a pared back plan from the one that was first proposed. So, the government obviously is working hard to, sort of boost this. But the truth of the matter is, although there are significant benefits for Manchester in this plan, and I readily acknowledge those benefits, the test our residents will apply is connectivity across the north, because that's the biggest problem when it comes to rail. And on that test, this plan falls quite some way short of what we've been promised. It's not the new line that we've been promised in 3 Conservative manifestos.
But just from Manchester's perspective, doesn't that look a bit, I don't know, maybe ungrateful is the wrong word, but I mean, the HS2, that fast line, is still connecting Manchester.
True. Not in the way we want, but yes, it is. But the truth of the matter, as I say, is the east-west connectivity is the most important. And if Bradford is out on a limb and Leeds doesn't have the right level of connectivity with Manchester, that affects us as well, because the north of England is, if you like, one geography, and we all need to be connected. And it's not just about Manchester's connections to London. So, this is a plan that goes some way to addressing our needs, but not all of the way. When it comes to the north of England, east-west, it's a second-class plan. And I don't believe you level up the country on second best.
OK, but let's look at the facts here. I mean, according to the government, so the original plan from Manchester to Leeds was to cut the journey time to 29.5 minutes. Under the current proposals, then, what they are actually going to do, it's 33 minutes. It's not much of a difference. And, of course, a saving of £18 billion.
Well, yes, my team say if this plan of a part new line and an upgrade on the Victorian infrastructure is done properly, it could deliver those journey times. Well, what that won't tell you, Dermot, if you just look at that, is that it won't give you as much capacity as a new line. So you can have many more train paths per hour if you have a new line. But I would just say to you, take that piece of sort of spin, if you like, from the government. What do you make of that if you live in Bradford? Because you're cut out completely. You're going to have to go to Leeds first before you can get on that new line. So, this isn't what we were promised. And as we sit here, we know that London is about to get a brand new east-west line tunnelled under the capital. Now, we don't begrudge the capital because obviously it needs the transport investment befitting of its status as a global city. However, why don't we get the same? You used the word before. Why should we always have to be grateful for what we are given? That's how the north of England has always been treated when it comes to transport. We are second-class citizens when it comes to transport. And if I were to sit here today and say to you, oh, well, it's second class, but we're just going to have to accept it as good enough, I would be condemning my great-grandchildren and beyond, and everyone else is here in the north, for them to live as second-class citizens when it comes to transport. And we're fed up of that. We're not prepared to accept it. And it's why we will still hold out for that new line that we were promised by 3 Conservative manifestos.
I'm interested in what you said there about it's not necessarily about the speed, given the minor differences there are between what will happen and what was originally proposed between Manchester and Leeds, but it's about the capacity. Now, on that issue of capacity, given what we've just been through and all this talk about working from home and changed working patterns and giving people flexibility, these are only forecasts, aren't they, about demand for future capacity in decades to come. They might actually be lower. You might not need this bigger capacity.
Possibly, but if you look at the reality of travelling around the north of England today, if you look at the M62 today, it is just chock-a-block all the way from Manchester, the north of Manchester, the M60, all the way across the Pennines. There's just a huge volume of road traffic there. If you then travel on our trains, you will see huge numbers of people. It's very difficult to get a seat. So even if we're not going to have the same numbers of people using public transport, which I think, to be honest, we probably are, but even if we weren't, we still need a massive increase in east-west transport capacity across the Pennines and across the north.
So are you uniting with other leaders, political, community, business across the north to fight this, whatever party they may come from?
Yeah, it's not a case of fight it all, because as I said, there are some benefits here. So I'm not coming on to sort of, play politics and just say, oh, it's all awful. It's not. There are some good things in this plan, but it falls short on that critical thing of a new line via Bradford and into Leeds. And it's that issue that I think could be changed. And so together with other Northern leaders, some 25 of us have written to the Prime Minister. And what we've said is, let's have a free vote on this plan before it goes any further. You may remember hearing him, Dermot, and other Conservatives saying that the Conservatives were loaned votes at the last general election. So what I would say to that is, let those MPs elected on those loaned votes to have a free vote on these plans, and then a judgment can be made about whether or not these are the right plans for the north of England. And the reason I say free vote is take party politics out of it. These are decisions that will affect generations of people in the north of England, generations to come. This will affect life here for hundreds of years. We've got to take the right decisions. Short-term decisions to chop a few billions out here or there, I think needs to be set against the long-term opportunities of the north. This new line, I'm told, costs only £4 billion more than the line that they've settled on. Really, is it really worth that saving to chop Bradford completely out of this? Honestly, I just don't think it is. And my view is a majority of MPs, if they were able to come to an independent decision on this, would probably agree and say, yes, reinstate that new line. And if that was put back in, I think this plan would be a lot more palatable to a lot more people in the north.
So in the party politics of this, if this government is peeing off the red wall seats that it took from Labour in the last election, I mean, just in naked political terms, that can't be a bad thing in terms of your analysis.
That isn't, what this is about for me. And to show your viewers, Dermot, that it's not all about party politics, the government I was in didn't do enough for the north when it comes to transport. So this is a failure on all sides, all political parties. I would rather levelling up worked. I'd rather it did what the government said it should do. But you don't level up with a second best plan. We needed a Premier League plan, and we've got a Championship plan here, and that isn't going to be good enough for us. Levelling up will require you to put the best plan forward. And because London is getting that new East-West line next year, I think actually, if this plan goes ahead, the gap will get bigger. The gap in terms of transport connectivity between north and south will only get bigger. So I'd rather they did the right thing, because sometimes the right thing and making a real difference for our residents is more important than political gains and one side being up and one side being down.